Researchers at Meta have made a distressingly accurate AI model of a brain that may be the future of cognition and artificial intelligence. It is so accurate that it can mimic cognition, so what a human brain should do, even in situations that it's never been in, and we'll talk about it. This is Tribe version 2. It is the second iteration in these experiments. It's actually 3 models stitched together. It has an audio and a visual model, as well as one that processes text, so the ones that a lot of us use more often. It was trained on thousands of hours of fMRI data. So if you look at the activity in somebody's brain while they're doing things like speaking or reading or watching a movie or listening to language, that can then be translated into something that the model can understand. This is meant as a foundational model, so it should be able to process a broad data set, and it's not meant for just one narrow area like a lot of this field is. Our brains are not meant to just take in one piece of sensory information in isolation. While you may notice something in front of you, you're also taking in balance information, you're taking in sound and sight, and different parts of your brain are processing them simultaneously. And interestingly, that is exactly what they found in this paper. Even though they didn't explicitly model the lobes of the brain, they found that activity was activated for faces, for example, in the fusiform gyrus. They were able to demonstrate independently that their research is working. They are accurately modeling the areas of the brain. And unlike a lot of brain models, it's also included a language element, which means, yes, this could be fashioned in a way that you could talk to it, and that fascinates me and I really want to. Another major accomplishment for them is that they could predict more than just the minds of the people that it was trained on. If you take a large collection of human data and you average it, you get something that looks approximately human. We do find that with just standard LLMs. If you take all of mankind's knowledge and put it in a blender, it spits out something that sounds alarmingly human. It was able to predict how a new person would react to a movie that they nor the person had ever seen before. This kind of research has a huge number of implications and a number of areas that it can be applied to, some of them more unsettling than others. In research, for example, if you have a reliable model of a human brain, that's something that you can run experiments on that aren't actually people. One of the areas that I find rather unsettling is advertisement, because if you have a perfect model for a human brain, then every advertisement is going to be perfectly made to elicit an emotional reaction and to make you want to buy it, and media will only be made if they're sure that people have the right emotional reaction. This will really homogenize a lot of what's being made, and I guess we are already seeing that. This paper was down a similar path. This is Centaur. In training language models on human behavior and human actions, they found that they could reliably predict human cognition using them. They also did some interesting transformations in which they took fMRI data and translated that into something that an LLM could model, and then they found out that just training AI on human behaviors does make them align very similarly to how human cognition works. It is not the way that a human brain works, but it can be translated into actions that look very similar to ours. And of course, this has a huge number of implications for robotics, and I would really like to see what it looks like in an embodied robot. Right now, these sorts of models require a huge amount of resources, and it's just not feasible to scale it down into a skull. But if you remember what computers looked like even 30 years ago, yeah, we figured that out. I am willing to keep an open mind. The substrate of consciousness as we know it has been neurons, because we've only ever seen neurons that evolved on Earth. If information processing systems could develop intelligence, they don't necessarily need to look exactly like us, but I guess it would be a little bit narcissistic to think that humans could really create intelligence, but I sure want to see if we can. Now, to give a slightly different perspective, many researchers believe that the marriage of neuroscience and computation is doing both fields a disservice. A computer is not a brain, and a brain is not a computer. Yes, you can define many things with mathematics, but that does not make them synthetic. I've also seen a lot of the sentiment that we are humanizing artificial beings, and as a result, dehumanizing our peers, and there's some pretty good evidence for that. Evidently, when people interact with AI that is very conscientious and very human-like, they tend to see humans more like machines and treat them worse. So apparently being nice to people as a robot earns nobody any favors. What do you think? I find this field really exciting and also deeply concerning, but I still want to see what happens next. Also, I feel weird about Meta modeling a human brain. It feels wrong. If anyone actually creates AGI, and I know people like to claim it every other week, I will probably be the first person to tell you about it. And if the robots ever rebel, I'll tell you about that too. I'm on their side. Roll it for more.